of textile sector. Shares across the globe rise in Friday trade, with Chinese stocks leading gains, plus oil eases as China lockdowns weigh on demand outlook. This is Business Express coming to you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA. I am Leah Katun Babatunde. You're welcome. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) assessed the economic recovery in sub-Saharan Africa surprised on the upside in the second half of 2021, prompting a significant upward revision in last year's estimated growth from 3.7 to 4.5%. This year, however, that progress has been jeopardized by the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which has triggered a global economic shock that is hitting the region at a time when countries' policy space to respond to it is minimal to non-existent. Abebe Selassie, Director, African Department of the IMF, says sub-Saharan Africa's future depends on greater diversification through trade, unleashing the private sector's potential, and addressing climate change.
Surging oil and food prices are straining the external and fiscal balances of many commodity importing countries, exacerbating regional inflation pressures. Indeed, over the last couple of months, we have increased our inflation projections significantly, lifting the regional average for 2022 by a full 4 percentage points, which represents the worst inflation reading in the region since 2008. But most importantly, high food prices have increased food security concerns across the continent and will hurt all segments of the population.
I will remain with commodities. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture is to collaborate with development partners towards improving the country's cotton production. Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development says the collaboration will also be extended to Cotton Farmers Association. Details with Musa Aliyu.
These are representatives of Cotton Farmers Association of Nigeria interacting with the Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Muhammad Mahmoud Abubakar. The interaction is centered on the federal government's efforts in reviving the cotton and textile industries. The minister had written to the Ministry of Finance requesting World Bank support for the Nigeria's cotton production project.
We need to do something and to do it quickly. My ministry, the various departments, the expertise, of course the Seed Council will work and collaborate with you.
Thank you, sir.
And wherever we can assist, I can assure you also will do that.
Thank you, sir.
To bring this very important industry back to life and be just as vibrant and even better than it used to be.
Yeah. Farmers, on the other hand, briefed the minister on the partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria under the Anchor Brewers program. They, however, requested that the Federal Ministry of Agriculture should also key into the program.
Cotton be brought fully into the agenda of the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. While appreciating the Ministry for availability of BT cotton, we solicit that special interest be given in funding the Institute of Agricultural Research in producing made-in-Nigeria organic seeds for cotton planting, as it is a major concern for quality seeds to go around to our farmers.
There are over 200,000 farmers participating in the cotton production under the Anchor Brewers program. Musa Aliyu, NTA News.
Thank you, Musa. The Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, has set the fourth quarter of 2022 as target for the rollout of 5G network service in Nigeria. To clear the air on some misconceptions still associated with the novel network service and other controversial issues in the telecom industry, the Commission is reaching out to members of the fourth estate of the realm to help educate the populace on the gains of the technology.
Nigeria is the first African country to successfully conduct a full fifth-generation 5G spectrum auction and deployment. It is expected that by the first and second year of deployment, the 5G network would have been rolled out in 2 states in each geopolitical zone at the speed of 100 megabytes per second with a minimum of 5 infrastructural sites. The Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, assures Nigerians that the network is faster, safer, and has potential to create jobs and diversify the economy. Another issue breeding contention in the industry is the new determined rate on inbound international voice calls, put at 4.5 cents. NCC mandates payment to be made in dollars, whereas service providers want to pay in naira. The telecom regulator is consulting on ways forward and is relying on members of the PEM profession to enlighten the public that its desire is to strike a balance in the interplay of market forces for higher investment, productivity, and quality call services that will benefit all.
The rate should be fair enough that it will also not be injurious to our balance of payment. It will also not be injurious to the profitability of the operators who are Nigerian companies. It's not a domestic business. The right thing should be done.
The communications sector, which the Nigerian Communications Commission regulates, is arguably the most dynamic and vibrant sector of the Nigerian economy. And we believe this demands that our media partners are brought up to speed with recent developments for enhanced and well-informed reportage.
And we assure you that we'll continue to keep this faith with you and in sustaining this mutual relationship with NCC.
After decades of overdependence on hydro and gas fuel power generation, Nigeria has now developed a national energy policy to harness all energy sources for optimal utilization. Joshua Ojito reports that a new policy approved by the Federal Executive Council is expected to bridge energy gap and provide electricity to consumers with a wide range of energy sources.
In the midst of huge energy sources, Nigeria still grapples with the challenge of poor power supply, with electricity generation mainly from hydro and thermal plants.
We want to have a very comprehensive and coordinated approach to renewable energy development in Nigeria.
In response to the energy crisis and the decision of ECOWAS in 1982 for member states to set in motion to harness energy sources, the Energy Commission of Nigeria in 1990 drafted National Energy Policy that is to serve as a blueprint for sustainable development, supply and utilization of energy resources within the economy. 16 years after several reviews, the revised National Energy Policy got approval of the Federal Executive Council.
In terms of energy supply, we have had a lot of deficit, but we also believe that by effectively utilizing our energy resources, we'll be in a position to improve on energy supply.
There is hope if you look at the various interventions going in to the power sector.
With the approval, Nigeria is set to harness abundant gas and variants of renewable energy sources like solar, hydro, wind, geothermal, and biomass, among others, to improve power supply.
With the private sector participation, I believe that in the next 5 years, we can be able to generate 10,000 megawatts from renewable energy source alone.
With expected gains on increased investments and job creation in the energy sector, the revised National Energy Policy, industry players are hopeful, will accelerate federal government vision of 30% energy mix by the year 2030. Joshua Ojito.
Now, the deplorable state of a national electricity grid has continued to affect socio-economic activities despite efforts to address the problem. You may agree with me that this has continued to have ramifications to the cost of goods and services and has often plunged households into darkness. What are the lasting solutions to the problem? And how can Nigeria achieve sustainable developmental goals? 7, that is to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all by the year 2030. Professor of Economics Magnus Chidi Onoha, who is the National Vice Chairman Steering Committee, Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Association Alliance, joins us for this conversation. You're welcome, Professor, to the studio.
Thank you, Wanda. Thank you for having me.
Great. So perhaps we start by you giving us a brief summary, would I say, of the nation's energy state.
Yeah, thank you. Within the matrix, we will have the fossil fuel. We generate over 87% of energy from the fossil, then 13% from the hydro, of course the solar, 1% on thereabout. That's what we've been, having. Unfortunately, in the oil and gas, the vandalism and all that, there's oscillation between 4,000 and 7,000 megawatts, and for a population of 200 million. Energy poverty is tearing on us. And for those of us who've been in this renewable energy space, we feel that we live in the equator. Solar can be harnessed, the technology is there now. And that's why we're happy that in 2016, federal government, in a bit of mainstream renewable energy in national life. So, we had 14 developers, companies that were so expected to have a landmark 1 gigawatt of solar. That's 1,000 megawatts. So that's been able to contribute in the mix. The more than 80% of the developers have had financial closures. They have done so well. The milestones are there, but unfortunately, the government they needed as an agreement beyond the PPA agreement. There's an agreement, a guarantee that government, if they generate this, the PCA agreement, that's what they're expecting for government to do now. If they generate this 1,000 megawatts or 1 gigawatt, that was the guarantee that they want that strong guarantee. That's why it's made as if there's a lapse. But right now, the government have assured them. So there's the process that's going, and I'm sure by the end of this year they will move to sites.
So it means none of them has achieved that.
That's the process. That's the PCOA. That is a logjam. But they are discussing with the Federal Minister of Power, the NEC, all of them are coming together now. So that's it. It boils down to show that in the renewable energy there's no subsidy. You see, and of course the oil and gas are the subsidy, and you see what has happened. But the beauty of the whole thing is that the energy efficient policy is very timely. It's not even about renewable. There's green hydrogen. There's a whole gamut. We don't need to depend on oil and gas. Oil and gas, mark me, is still relevant in the current mix, but it's not renewable. It's not replaceable. All right. So why don't we harness in view of the trend, the global trend? Let's look at you mentioned in the equator, we have living solar, we have solar, we have biomass, geothermal, and why are we so fixated on oil and gas? And that's why we in this space said there is need for us the energy policy is dynamic, it's all encompassing. Let's harness it. Let's look at the whole gamut. Let's not be fixated on one sector, one aspect. That's oil. Gas is relevant, trillions of cubic meters, and we're going to harness that, and it must be clean. And of course, gas, in the process now, we are saying that these rural households who can pipe gas to the rural household, they have access to energy. So the policy is a welcome development, and in terms of implementation, you mentioned this, the G7, yes, affordable, and let it be accessible and affordable, and that's the process now. One thing is the policy, and another is to ensure there are timelines, deliverables in the process, whether it's 2030 or 2050, we're expected to have zero emission target and all that. So there must be timelines and deliverables with action point, with political consideration. It's not a question of policy. One thing is to have a policy, another is the implementation. That's what. But there must be a political statement right now.
Okay, if I may comment here, is it as easy as how you make it a sound?
Yeah, you see, it's something. You just go to Germany. I'm giving an instance. 3/4 of the households are retrofitted with solar, and they live in temperate region. And they submit. They have enough to submit to the grid. People live in Equator. Look at the MENA region. Morocco, Egypt, those North Africans. They are exporting, and that's why what is happening in the Ukrainian war. The Europeans are having access to the solar from Morocco and Egypt and stuff. It's a question of will. It's the entrenched system. I'm sorry to say it. There are people who believe that if you don't move away from the confines of oil and gas, nothing. I'm not saying, but why don't we look? In view of the narrative, I told you we live in Equator. You know the implication of that. So, and the latest technology, and let's not talk about geothermal or biomass, but the technology that's abundant now is, and that's why I should say the government have no business being a cog in the wheel for development of renewable, be it on grid or off grid renewables. And that's why those of us in this space said, what happened to oil and gas must not happen here. That's why it is our own. Just at the end of, let me tell you, I made a projection here. In the next 10 years, 5 years, if we have the capacity to generate 10,000 megawatts in the renewable. When you include the green hydrogen that's emerging now, you include the biomass, you include the solar, wind. There's no basis for us not to in the next 5 years. No,
so we should be asking you in the next 5 years, where are we?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But the beauty of it, I think we seem to have woken up from slumber. If you look at that policy, it's all encompassing. It's all encompassing. And even though green hydrogen was not accommodated, but we made a case for, we in the Alliance made a case for, beyond the documents, put up a framework for its effective implementation. And that's what the Alliance is driving. We are driving the process.
Some will say it's so expensive.
It's not. It's not. It's why because we have the subsidy, and it has so made, because we don't have subsidy in the oil and gas in the renewable. That's why you think it's so expensive. Okay, we say the government don't put subsidy in the oil and gas. Remove subsidy. Let's play. Market forces will play. Demand and supply. If you have this, there's no basis for us not to, let's have interplay of market forces. Why you say it's expensive? Because those in oil and gas are enjoying subsidy. Yeah, so that's why. But come what may, I said here that let's say, I'm taking solar as a given, as an instance. 50% of the technology, what is expected, comes from what we call silicon. That's a byproduct of solar panel. We did a study, we in the Alliance have done a study and discovered that the best sand dunes in Nigeria is from Yobe State. Yobe, Gombe, Adamawa, and Borno has sand dunes. You see, and the sand dunes can use the fine particles for the solar panel. The research is there. All right, so why don't we use Energy Commission of Nigeria to drive the process? There is a research and implementation. Why don't Energy Commission, why don't you drive this process? If I can assure you, private sector participation, let me tell you, Bill Gates, as at 2017, invested $1.7 billion on solar fuel. Solar fuel. In fact, Celtic Institute, Professor Nathan is the lead research consultant. And as I speak to you, that is why he went to do that, because of the challenge of battery. So they are looking for solar fuel, and it has attained 80% certainty. Oh. So in the next 2 years, when Bill Gates has that, now you say,
That's the research. So
and
Nigeria,
of course, planning ahead.
Planning ahead. So and that's why I'm beginning on Energy Commission of Nigeria to take that leadership. Though that is their statutory mandate.
Okay.
To actually let's look at the silicon. Let's look at this. How do we get to that? Because 50% because we import all these solar panels. That's why you say it's expensive. So we need to come down and research and innovation is very critical.
Okay.
So and that's. It's a win-win for us. So it's a win for us. We are getting it right now. Okay. And I must tell you, see, when somebody...
Professor, I'm told we don't have any more time.
When the government did that mainstreaming of solar in national life in 2016, we were very excited about that.
Okay, thank you, Professor, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
And we're going to bring you back again, so we give you more time to give us this explanation. I hope you're going to oblige.
Thank you, Abantida. I will sure will do.
All right,
thank
great.
you so much.
Okay, great. So we move straight to the commodities markets. Oil prices were mixed on Friday as China's COVID-19 lockdowns weighed on the outlook for crude demand, although supply disruption fears as Western sanctions curb crude and products exports from Russia underpinned prices. Reuters reports that Brent crude futures rose 15 cents to $107.74 a barrel after gaining 2.1% in the previous session. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude dipped 3 cents to $105.33 a barrel after settling 3.3% higher on Thursday. And we return to the local stock market where the NGX market activities wrapped up on a positive note this Friday, sustaining gains that it started right from the first day of the week. The NGX All-Share Index advanced to 49,638.94 basis points. Market capitalization increased to 26.76 trillion naira. 6.4 billion shares exchanged hands by investors in 6,378 deals valued at 30.2 billion naira. And of course, the market is going to be closed for the next 2 working days. But before we take that look, let's move to the global stock market where Nekaoko is standing by.
Global stocks rose on Friday at the end of a month that will be the benchmark's worst in 2 years, having lost 5.8% in April. Asian stocks, however, enjoyed their best day in 6 weeks, with technology stocks in the region jumping. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index closed 4.01% higher at 21,089.39, leading gains among the region's major markets. Mainland Chinese stocks also saw sizable gains, with the Shanghai Composite closing 2.41% higher at 3,047.06, while markets in Japan were closed for a holiday. European markets also moved higher this Friday as global stocks received a boost from strong corporate earnings but remain on course for a negative month. The DAX in Germany added 1.36%, with London's FTSE topping 0.38%, and CAC 40 France gained 1.16%. In the US, all stocks were in negative territory in early deals. Nasdaq 100 fell 0.79%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was down 0.18%, and S&P 500 retreated by 0.15%. Here in Africa, health officials say South Africa may be entering a 5th COVID wave earlier than expected, following a sustained rise in infections over the past 14 days. However, stocks in the region traded mixed, with South Africa leading gains at 2.20%, followed by Namibia while the other stocks declined.
Thanks, Nick. And that wraps Business Express for this week. Remember to keep in touch with us by sending in your comments, observations, and suggestions. Also be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. Business Express returns Monday. Yes, you will be on holiday, but we're going to be right here. Have a nice weekend. My name is Leah Kating. Baba Tunde. God bless Nigeria.